The African Center for Leadership and Strategy and Development, known as the Center LSD, and the Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative, with the acronym WRAPA, have called for urgent electoral and financial reforms to ensure greater inclusion of women and persons with disabilities in Nigeria's democratic process. The agencies met the call in Abuja on Monday during a briefing on the proposed implementation of civic space and election reforms in Nigeria. AIT's Ogehi Emekme has the report.
The two advocacy groups argue that the high cost of politics in Nigeria continues to entrench inequality and limit electoral competitiveness, particularly for women and persons with disabilities. Lacking access to the political and financial networks often available to male contenders, these groups face even greater obstacles to participation. To address this imbalance, WRAPA and Center LSD are calling on all registered political parties to reserve at least 30% of their nomination slots for women.
Democracy cannot thrive in Nigeria without civic freedoms, empowered citizens, free from poverty, and credible electoral institutions. To this end, WRAPA and Center LSD therefore call on 1. The executive and legislature to urgently include the recommendations in the policy briefs and memorandum in the ongoing constitutional and legislative reforms.
They describe this as a critical step to welfare representation and correcting the long-standing marginalization of women in governance.
Inclusion means everybody, every citizen. How we now navigate around the booby traps, the same way we are navigating around diaspora voting, again, IDP voting, again. So these are things that we expect to see coming through the Electoral Act, the electoral reforms, and the constitutional alterations that are ongoing.
Another major concern raised was the appointment process of the INEC chairman, which is currently at the discretion of the president. The groups argue that this process undermines electoral independence and calls for a more transparent and inclusive appointment mechanism.
The old saying of who pays the piper dictates the tune runs true in the perception of citizens on the neutrality and capacity of election management institutions. The outcomes of the system project point clearly to the need for injection of steps in the process of the appointment of the INEC chair in order to instill confidence and prove wrong widely held public perceptions of external influences.
WRAPA and Center LSD pledged to sustain advocacy efforts until comprehensive electoral reforms are achieved in Nigeria. Ogehi Emekme, AIT News, Abuja.
The National Youth Council of Nigeria has called